Super Rugby Dream Team for round number 12. Weird week. Couple of draws. Only one New Zealand team won. That's unusual in itself. Hurricanes had a win. Blues lost. Chiefs, Highlanders, Crusaders drew. Weird week. I've gone through and picked some players. It has been a tough set to pick. I've got a couple of guys. It's interesting as well because I get my stats usually from Rugby Pass, and I think they've gone through a change in the way they do their stats. So I've noticed that they are now reporting on line-out wins that guys have, which is good because it only used to be line-out steals. They've changed like tackle busts, I think it was, to like beaten defenders. And those numbers all seem to be down quite a bit on what it used to be. But I'll go through some of that in a minute as well. So it does seem to be a wee bit of a change. And also line-out steals now seem to be counting as turnovers won. So it used to be they were kind of two separate stats. Turnover is in ruck and maul turnover, and then there was like line-out turnover, I guess if you steal someone else's line-out. But now it seems anybody who's got a line-out steal, that also counts as a turnover won. So because I can find a lot of guys whose line-out steals match their turnovers won, and a couple of guys whose turnovers were higher than their lineouts won, but nobody who had like one lineout steal and no turnovers won. If it was one, it was one or more. So yeah, anyway. 15 players who I thought were pretty good at the weekend. The first one, props, is Ogaboka from the Bulls. Man, that guy is on my board a lot. I swear, every week that guy gets a line break or a clean break for a guy wearing number 1 on his back. He certainly likes running in open space, and those numbers, to be fair, also seem down with the new stats. I'll have to have a look at ESPN to compare them to see if they're markedly different or not. 5 runs, 21 meters. 21 meters for him is actually pretty low. 1 clean break, 5 out of 5 tackles, no penalties conceded. Doing a very good job in a World Cup year. I like the young guy, and seeing him in full flight is a thing of beauty. Next, from the Reds, Taniela Tupou. He had a pretty massive effort. And I don't want to say his game's one-dimensional, but he definitely has an aspect of his game which is better. And if I read the numbers out to you, you should get an idea. So 9 runs for 40 meters is pretty good for a prop. He had a try. He had 2 passes and 2 offloads, but then only 2 tackles. So guy with the ball in hand is going to do a lot of damage. He's not a particularly, at least from what I've seen, high work rate defensive prop. Like some other guys just seem to get around the park and make loads of tackles. But he is an offensive weapon. Conceded 2 penalties as well. Still a pretty good shift from him. Next, and he was annoying me at the weekend with all his head patting on the Blues guys because they were dominating them absolutely up front. I still picked him, so yeah, what can I say? 6 runs, 18 meters, 3 tries. The guy is scoring a whole lot of tries at the back of that Brumbies forward pack, which is immense. 3 passes and 5 from 5 tackles. Yeah, I wasn't pleased, but man, any hooker that scores 3 tries probably deserves to be on here for Lau Vainga. Locks, I have gone with Ruan Bota from the Sharks. I'll read some of his stats out, and they are interesting. So he made 11 out of 12 tackles, which is a pretty good work rate. He had 5 line-out wins, so he was doing a bit of work at the line-out. 3 turnovers, none of which were line-out steals, so actual turnovers against the Crusaders. The guy was immense. He only had 1 run for -1 meters, so that's not a particularly good stat. He did concede no penalties, though. For him, that's one of, I feel like, the weaknesses of his game, as he does concede too many silly penalties. But 5 turnovers, no penalties. Sorry, 3 turnovers. It was 5 line-out wins. 3 turnovers without conceding a penalty is pretty good. Defensively very strong. Next, and he's got a double-barreled surname, so I'm going to go with the first one. Walker Leawere from the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes' locking ranks have been kind of questioned, I guess, by me and others this season with Yeah, with they don't have a Brodie Retallick or a Sam Whitelock or a Scott Barrett or Patrick Tuipulotu. Like of all the New Zealand teams, they don't have a big name lock. Even the Highlanders locks probably get a bit more press, than the Hurricanes locks. But he had a really big shift. 4 runs, 16 meters, good for a lock. Beat a defender, had a clean break, had a pass, 10 from 10 tackles. 4 line-out steals and 1 line-out win of his own. That's weird, isn't it? That he only caught the ball once on his own throw, but 4 on the opposition. Absolutely crazy. Huge shift. Loose forwards, I have gone, and probably the first choice this week. Man, was he good. Luke Jacobson from the Chiefs. That guy was everywhere. He had 9 runs for 49 meters, which is impressive. A defender beaten, 2 clean breaks, 6 passes, 2 offloads, also scored a try, also got 16 out of 16 tackles, also got 3 turnovers. The guy was just immense. I did read a headline, I didn't actually click on the article, but talk about him being in that All Black conversation as well. Man, if he keeps playing like that, he will make himself hard to leave out. Next, long name... Dwayne Vermeil. If you saw that try, I don't need to tell you why he needs to be in the team. But 8 runs, 84 run meters. And a lot of those were on the way to the try line when he got an intercept and just went for all money. But interestingly, the stats say no clean breaks. If that wasn't a clean break, I don't know what was. And no defenders beaten. Well, he definitely pushed off Curtis Rona as he tried to tackle him. So I don't know if that counts or not. But the new stats, like I said, do seem a bit harder to please. But, made 7 from 7 tackles, 2 turnovers, and that try was just an absolute amazing thing of beauty. If you are trying to convince someone to watch rugby, you should show them that Dwayne Vermeil try, because it was just, maybe they wouldn't appreciate it if they're not a rugby fan. It was just gorgeous. Good for the Box as well that he is playing as well he is. And this guy, likewise for the Pumas and the Jaguares, Pablo Matera. That guy is in scintillating form. 7 runs for 45 meters. The guy, I tend to pick more dynamic guys than workhorse guys, but I do try to mix it up a wee bit. But this guy is just always dynamic. Had a clean break, had a pass, had an offload, had a try, 8 out of 9 tackles, also managed a turnover, also managed 2 line-out wins. The guy just does everything. He defends, he attacks, he does set piece. He's pretty aggressive. Like when there's a bit of handbags, he's never far from it. But very, very key player for Argentina and for the Jaguares. So let's hope he can keep that up. Next, scrum half, or halfback. I've gone with Aaron Smith, and this is one where his stats don't really do him justice. So the stats are probably the hardest to go by when you're picking number 9s. That doesn't always tell a full story. 1 run for 8 meters, which is a nice return if you're looking at meters per run. 66 passes, 3 out of 4 tackles, a turnover, and 8 kicks. Also managed a line-out steal, which is interesting. I don't remember that, but it could have been. But yeah, he just was controlling the game and pushing his team around the park. And when he went off, it was not a good thing for the Highlanders. I'm not saying that taking him off lost the game, and I am kind of a fan of making sure the guys on the bench get minutes. But if there was a game to leave Aaron Smith on for the 480, I think perhaps that was one. So, I don't think you can underestimate how much influence he had over that game, despite nothing particularly fancy there in the numbers. Fly half, I'm going with another Highlander here. I could have gone with Mitch Hunt. Mitch Hunt was pretty good for the Crusaders in Mo'unga's absence, but I've gone with Josh Ioane. 6 runs, 29 meters. They had him as 2 tries, but he only scored 1. So again, this is what I'm questioning a little bit about the stats. A defender beaten, a clean break, a try, 2 from 2 tackles, a turnover, 4 conversions, and a penalty. So the guy had 21 points out of 31 for the Highlanders. So he was all over and very good in a team that probably should have won that game. But when you guys got guys like Jacobson up against you, there were a few standouts on that side as well. So I have picked a fair few Highlanders in this lineup. But, like I said, some of them were pretty outstanding. Midfielders. I'm getting into the Aussies here. I have gone with Samu Karevi. Interestingly, he didn't score any tries. which is surprising because the guy often scores tries. He seems to be a pretty key man for a lot of what they do, but there's one number here. So he had 18 runs, he beat a defender, only one defender beaten is unusually low for Samu Karevi. 3 clean breaks, 7 passes, and offload, 4 out of 4 tackles. 4 out of 4 tackles is also unusual for him. He usually makes like 12 and misses 3 or 4. 2 turnovers, but 156 run meters. 156. That is a phenomenal effort. That doesn't happen that many times. One of the other Reds guys, one of the outside backs, was like 140 something, but 156 meters. Yeah, that's crazy. Good effort from him. 18 runs. I mean, the guy was getting some ball, and there were hardly ever 15 guys on either side for that game. So, yeah, fair enough. 156 meters, all that extra space. Makes sense. Next, oops, I've not done a good job there. From the Chiefs, I'm going with ALB. He's another almost permanent fixture on this board. The guy is in such good form, and his team doesn't do him justice. 15 runs, 56 meters, beat a defender, had a clean break, 8 passes and an offload. 1 offload for him this season is low. He had a try assist. He had 12 out of 12 tackles. He managed the turnover. Again, the guy just does everything. Is he the form midfielder in New Zealand right now? Probably, I think. For all the talk about Nonu and Goodhue and Laumapi and all this stuff, and you might say, where's Laumapi? He scored a scintillating try, and he did, but his numbers are really ordinary apart from that one try. So he had a really good moment, and he made more tackles than he usually does. I think it was like 10 out of 12. But for the most part, Laumapi was pretty quiet otherwise in that game. So I think he only had like 20-something run meters. But yeah, that was it. There's a bin coming if that's what you're here for. Next, outside backs. I have gone with the Crusader in George Bridge. Now, again, his stats on his own aren't all that fantastic. 11 runs, 84 meters is a pretty good return. 2 defenders beaten, 1 clean break. It's a loud bin. 3 passes, 1 offload, 2 out of 3 tackles. So for him, that's kind of a quiet day at the office. No try assists, no tries. But if you think about it, because that Sharks Crusaders game was really tight and it was dominated by defense, largely from the Sharks. The next best run meter getter from George Bridges 84 was Sever Reese with 43. So the fact that he's double the next guy in that game, which was a tight game, I think speaks kind of volumes towards his performance. So that is just my pick. I certainly could have gone with others like Van den Heever from the Sunwolves. Had a good effort as well, a couple of tries, but again only managed 20 odd run meters. Ben Smith, he did get injured in that game, but from what I read, it's a fairly minor injury. It's just a strain, so that's good news for All Blacks and Highlanders fans. 12 runs, 67 meters, 13 passes. He wasn't listed with any tries, but he did score a try, so I think someone made a mistake with the Ioane and Ben Smith try count. 2 out of 2 tackles, 6 kicks. The guy is very controlled at the back, and any team would benefit from having him at 15 or 14. So yeah, I like him at 15. Everybody does, but when he goes 14, he goes 14. Very good effort. And lastly, I can't leave out from the Hurricanes, and he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. Wes Glusson. Man, did I pick a lot of New Zealanders this week? Apparently I did. Wes Glusson had 5 runs, 47 meters, beat a defender, had a clean break, 4 passes. He had a try assist, and for a winger, 9 out of 10 tackles. Very solid shift. Very, very solid. I'm not sure he's in that All Blacks conversation yet because we've got that many outside backs, but he's in good form. So, yeah, like I said, the stats were a wee bit interesting. I could have had half of the Sharks forwards on here for the way they defended. The Sharks guys generally didn't have very good attacking stats because they didn't have that much ball, but they all defended like demons. The Rebels guys, they all had pretty good stats except for the defense, which were atrocious. The team tackled at like 60-something% in that game, so that's kind of what let them down. But yep, that's my 15. There are certainly more that could be added. You guys let me know your thoughts on what other guys could have gone in on these guys here, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.